would walk 10 miles on my hands and knees. Ain't no doubt about it, baby, it's you
Hello and welcome to It Is All About Sports Podcast. I'm Scott again this week, and this week we're going to be making our Super Bowl predictions, talking a little bit about Peyton Manning, asking you a question whether you think Peyton Manning would be considered the greatest quarterback of all time should the Broncos beat the Seahawks on Sunday. Today is January 30th. It's Thursday. Looking outside the window, it's another big ice ball. I can't wait to move back to Florida. But anyway, that's what we'll be talking about. And so first of all, let's get right to the game, and then we'll get to the argument about whether Peyton will be the greatest quarterback of all time should he win. I'm thinking the game. I was really originally going to call it for Seattle, but I want Denver to win because I'm a quarterbacks fan basically. I like great quarterbacks. Dan Marino, of course, was my favorite quarterback of all time. Being a Dolphins fan, I love Dan Marino, and same with Miami Mike. But you can't ignore what Peyton's done. I mean, you think back, just look at the numbers he's had this year. Think back about it. 55 touchdowns. 10 interceptions, QB rating of 115. I mean, just think if that was Dan, how excited we would be. But, in his career, he's had 491 touchdowns. So, we'll get into that, debate in just a little bit. But first, the game. Vegas has Denver Broncos as 2.5-point favorites as of today. I think it's going to be, a tight, close game. Almost picked Seattle. I like Seattle's fast defense. Seattle's a more physical team, really on both sides of the ball. But I'm hoping Miami Mike is right. He said this is going to be Peyton's finest hour. And, I'm hoping that he's correct because I really would like to see him win his second Super Bowl and, cement his legacy. Plus, he tie his brother with Super Bowl wins. But I think it's going to be a tight game, 27-24. Originally, like I said, I was going to pick Seattle, but I'm going to have to go with Peyton on this one and just hope that he wins and, hope he plays again next year. I mean, he certainly looks like, he could play, 4 or 5 more years. But really the question is, the article on my site is, would a Super Bowl win make Peyton Manning the greatest of all time, and or the greatest ever, but basically same thing. And I want to get your opinions, what you think about it. I'd love to hear from you. A comment or email me, something like that. But what do you think about it? Do you think that if he wins the Super Bowl, would you put him as number one? But then again, getting back to his numbers, his 491 touchdowns. I mean, if he doesn't win another Super Bowl, but he plays another 4 or 5 years, ends up with 600 touchdowns. I mean, do you give him the best of all time then? I mean, it's definitely debatable. I mean, he certainly looks like he could play at least 3 more years, and if he threw, 40 touchdowns, in 3 more years, he'd have 600 touchdowns. That's 180. It would be 180 more than Dan Marino, and it'd be a little bit less than 100 than Brett Favre, give or take a couple of touchdowns. But you see what I'm getting at. I mean, that's just awesome stats. I mean, anybody that can roll up them kind of stats has to be in that conversation. He's already in the conversation, but I'd have to put him ahead of Joe Montana, as great as Joe Montana was. And Montana was a clutch player. But, this 49er teams were great teams, I mean, they were just, they were great at every position, really, basically. And I don't think Denver's necessarily a great team. And I'd like to hear what you think about it as well. I mean, he has some good receivers, but they're really not a physical team. And this is what I was worried about. If Seattle could shut them down, just a little bit, their defense might take over the game. But like I said, I'm going to go with Denver. Denver in this one, 27-24. And so we'll go on to the debate of if he wins, will he be the greatest quarterback of all time? So this is kind of like the audio of the audio version of the article on the website. So let's get right to it. So in your opinion, who's the greatest of all time? Okay, that would depend on the criteria, wouldn't it? I mean, is it all about stats? Well, if it's all about stats, then it would be Brett Favre. You would consider the greatest of all time. Is it all about championships? Well, if that was the case, then we would be talking about Terry Bradshaw or Joe Montana. Well, we wouldn't even like talk about Terry Bradshaw. Come on, he's not that good. But he won 4 Super Bowls, so he's got to be in the conversation if that was your criteria. Or would it be somebody like Dan Marino, who put up a lot of stats before they changed the rules? And would it be him because he was such a great player, or a Fran Tarkenton who took his team to 3 Super Bowls as well? But it's a combination of all the above. And then we would have to put, the Denver Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning right there as well. So consider how bad the Colts were before Manning arrived and how good they've been ever since, which really they haven't been that bad. I guess we messed up a little bit there. They've been a playoff team since he's been gone. But, they haven't been the same. I mean, Luck's not as good as Peyton Manning. Let's consider it. I mean, let's just face it. Anyway, let's also consider his stats. He's among the top 5 in yards passing, touchdowns, completion percentage, holds a single season record for touchdown passes 8 times. Has been an AFC Offensive Player of the Year 4 times and NFL MVP 4 times as well. So he'll probably win his 5th one this year. Anyway, a win in this Super Bowl on Sunday against Seattle Seahawks, and he will win a 2nd Super Bowl in 3 tries, and he will be the first quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl for 2 different teams. Kurt Warner came close, but that pick at the end zone, right at the end zone at the half, right before the half, is what did the Arizona Cardinals in. So, anyway, Manning was born to play quarterback, and his father was a star quarterback for the Ole Miss Rebels in the early 1970s, and then the New Orleans Saints. And his brother Eli Manning was already quarterback the New York Giants to a pair of Super Bowl wins in his career after breaking all his father's records at Ole Miss. Peyton angered the Rebels fans, though, when he chose to go to SEC rival Tennessee to quarterback the Volunteers for 4 seasons. In those 4 seasons, he led the Vols to the top of the college football world. Although he did not win a national championship, he raised the bar high enough that Tennessee won the year after he graduated. The annual clash between the Vols and Steve Spurrier's Florida Gators with the Heisman Trophy winner Danny Werfel, were classics. He and Werfel put up huge numbers in the SEC, which before had been known as a conference who succeeded by running the ball and playing defense. Then it was off to the NFL after a tough rookie season in the 1-loss column where the Colts were 3-13. His second year was just the opposite, as they had a huge turnaround, finished 13-3. They had only 2 losing seasons since then. One of those was 3 seasons ago when Peyton Manning missed the entire season with a neck injury. The fact that he has come back from such an injury is not only amazing, but based on his age, but it's also considered what happened to his brother Cooper. His older brother was a star receiver who went to Ole Miss in Peyton's sophomore season of high school, but a neck injury caused him to need surgery, which left him paralyzed for a time. He had to learn how to do everything from walking to using his arms all over again. Football was out of the question. It would be very easy for Manning not to want to risk a hit such as that, which would cause permanent damage after watching his brother's struggles. But instead, he moved on to the Broncos and the Colts after the Colts decided they would go with Andrew Luck. In the 2 years, he has led them to the first Super Bowl since the days of John Elway. And it's tough to say who the greatest of all time is. It really depends on what the individual believes is the most important factor. But nobody can argue that Peyton Manning should not be in the conversation no matter what the criteria. A win on Sunday will make it really tough not to give him that title. And I agree. Totally agree that a win on Sunday against the Seahawks, his 2nd Super Bowl with all the numbers he's got, it was just amazing. And, I don't know if, I'm sure hopefully there's still Dolphins fans out there listening to me on this podcast, but I remember when the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game was actually against Peyton Manning. I believe it was against Peyton Manning in 2000 when Lamar Smith ran that ball in for a touchdown. That was the Dolphins' last playoff win. It was against Peyton Manning and the Colts. I think that was his 2nd or 3rd year, maybe his 3rd year, if I'm correct. But anyway, that's all we have this time. Why don't you check out our YouTube channel? I'll also be on there making a little video about the Super Bowl with a beer in my hand. And would welcome any comments, anything that you got to say. Send me an email, and we'll talk about it next time. This is Scott from It's All About Sports, and I am out.